Welcome back to Mariners Down Under. It is your weekly look at your Seattle Mariners, and it's all positive and with an Australian twist. This week, we're going to be previewing the 2026 Mariners season, and to do so, I'm bringing together three of my best Mariners friends to get their opinions, their thoughts, and their ideas before we head into what is one of the most highly anticipated baseball seasons the Pacific Northwest has ever seen or experienced. But before we do that, obviously a really quick shout out to Edward Bizzardo and Jonathan Diaz for taking home gold in the WBC final. Obviously, always really good to see some Mariners players score success no matter where it's at. And then also a big congratulations to a number of our podcast friends who've just been named to the Mariners spring breakout roster. We've got Charlie Bielenson, Tyler Cleveland, Brock Moore, Ryan Sloan, Charlie Pagliarini, and Josh Caron, all receiving the nod for the big event. So a round of applause to them, and hopefully it's just another opportunity to showcase their incredible talent to the baseball community. But that's all from me. It is time to get into the bulk of this week's episode, which is our 2026 Mariners season preview. Today, we bring together some of my favourite people in the Mariners community for a bit of a sharing of thoughts. And while we are all here wanting this team to win a World Series, our thoughts and opinions can differ and be at opposite ends, and that is completely okay. So I thought this was an opportune time to bring together three of the smartest and kindest people that I've had the ability to check in with and come across during my time podcasting and being a fan, and put us all in the one virtual room for what is the most anticipated Mariners season in recent memory, or perhaps ever. So joining us today, we've got Jake from Raise The Trident. You can find him on nearly every platform as exactly that. One of the kindest people that you'll ever come across. He is a golden retriever that's come back as a human. He's the ideal person to follow and have a chat with. It's always respectful dialogue around the team. We've also got Gavin Hite joining us for as long as he can. He's on dad duties today, so much respect to him. Gavin is one of the faces of Up West Sports, a great podcast covering the Mariners and WSU Cougars. Go Dogs. Gavin has probably forgotten more about baseball than I will ever know. He's a great supporter of mine. And it's great that he's been able to give up as much of his time as he can this morning. And certainly, last but not least, is Aldo Canepa. Oh my God, we spoke about your surname and I've just butchered it. But we're going to keep his job top secret. But put it this way, anytime a major sporting event is on your TV, this is the bloke in charge of it. And to describe him is very easy. It's two words. It's bloody legend. So for this episode, I'm going to ask a question. We're each going to give an answer. And between the four of us, you should be able to get enough information to be able to create your own level of excitement for the season. So, Jake, I'm going to start with you. Stab in the dark, mate. What are we guessing for the Mariners win total for 2026?
Well, Nate, you are not wrong that this is the most anticipated season probably in a long time. They're coming into this year with, probably the best opening day roster they've had in quite some time as well on all facets, right? Like, we haven't really dealt with too many injuries yet in spring training. JP Crawford obviously is a little banged up, as well as Bryce Miller, but, regardless, they're not looking at any significant time as of now. And, going back to last couple spring trainings, we had Matt Brash go down with Tommy John during 2 years ago in Peoria. Last year, George Kirby landed on the shelf as well. So, not only are the Mariners coming into the opening day one of the best just overall roster constructions that they've had, but also, the health has stayed there fairly well thus far, at least the best that we could ask for probably at this point. So with that said, I think that's a good start for the Mariners, having dealt with those injuries to start with the last couple of years. The Mariners can kind of be a little bit tougher on the front end of the season, especially, Seattle in April and May is not the best weather-wise. We'll just put it that way. It's chilly, it's cold, it's tough to kind of get hot there. So that bodes well for them, right? And going against, the AL West, who they're going to be playing the most, I would say is the most I don't want to say weak it's been, but I mean, the Mariners are very clearly the best team in the AL West right now. They're clearly the strongest team. Right now, if you look at the prediction markets right now, Fangraphs says 88 wins. PECOTA, which is usually pretty accurate, actually says 94, which is interesting. I'm going to be the middleman here. I'm going to go with 90, which is the last year's total. But I also, think that's plenty to win the West. That's plenty to get into the postseason. But yeah, I'm going to go with 90, just kind of, hedging my bets on, kind of both the bottom half and the top half of those predictions. We'll go right down the middle.
And Gavin, what about you? Are you sticking around the 90 mark, or do you think we got the ability to go a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the better off seasons that we've seen. I know some people might disagree with me on that, but we locked up a guy that we needed to lock up in Josh Naylor. We traded for a top arm in Jose Ferrer, and we got Brendan Donovan. We got some really interesting pieces coming to the mix that are fixing some of the problems that we've had in the past. So I'm very excited to see where this team's at comparative to last year, and also around the rest of the AL West. If you take that into account, I really like their chances of going bigger and better this year. And I'm not going to go outlandish and say 94 wins, but I'll go respectful. The number I had in my head a couple days ago when you tossed us this question, I'm going to stick with it. It's at 91, which I know is very close to Jake, but I'm going to go with 91 wins. I think that they got that in them. And Jake, to your point, yeah, the first couple of months, or at least April, if you're a Mariners fan watching this right now, just understand, don't put too much stock into it. If they're 500 at the end of April, that's a good thing. Because the times that they've come out the game swinging, we lost a 10 game lead to the Astros. So maybe just be okay with them figuring out the pieces that they need to, bring up DFA, bring down rookies that they need to give opportunities to. All that kind of gets sorted out within the first couple of months. So once we hit the hot weather months, that's when you can kind of see this team start to coasting. But yeah, I'll stick with 91.
Aldo, where are you at, mate?
Jake and Gavin kind of hit it on the head there. I think management has done a phenomenal job this offseason of kind of getting the parts that this team really needed. Eugenio really wasn't the answer towards the end of last season. He really, really struggled when he put the Mariner jersey on. Letting him go, bringing in Donovan to kind of fill that role at third is great. Right field, still kind of a question. Victor Robles, can he stay healthy? Can he not? But we got people in the pipeline. But as Jake said earlier, this is one of the best rosters we've seen, opening day rosters that we've seen in a very, very long time, if ever, for a Mariner season to start with. If this team can stay healthy, can grind through those dog days of summer, those long stretches, 90 is a great number, Jake. 91 is a great number. I'm going to go 93. I think this team is definitely a 93-win season. 100 would be super, super optimistic, but I think those low 90s, I think that's the number we need, and that's the number we should aim for. I think both of you guys are right that it's enough to definitely win this division. It is a very weak AL West this season, so coming up, I especially if we can sweep a lot of those season series between the Angels and the Athletics and the Rangers, who aren't really doing too much, haven't done too much this offseason. I think 93 wins is possible.
Well, I copied Jake. I went with 90. Again, it's what we had last season. I look at it and go, in the division, we've got teams that have improved and we've got teams that have dropped off. And you take what Houston's lost, but then you take a little bit of improvement from the Athletics. So no longer are you looking to, sweep those bad teams, except the Angels. We have to sweep the Angels, which we never seem to do. But I think when you take out what we've added with what we've lost, with who's improved, with who's lost, I think it's a bit of, here and there. And I think we sit around that 90-win margin. And like Jake said, JP's had the injection. I don't mind Colt Emerson coming up and playing if we really need to, especially now that bat has started to heat up. And if you had have asked me that when I was in Peoria, I did have a conversation with somebody because they sort of said, is it Cole Young or is it Colt Emerson? And I said, well, Young's mashing the absolute shit out of the ball right now, so maybe Emerson starts down, but I'm not worried about that. Aldo mentioned right field. I'm excited to see maybe a Rayleigh bounce back. I'm excited to see if Canzone can carry back over. So I think anything that you could see as a potential negative, I think we've got enough positives there, and we can bang on about the bullpen as much as we want. We've got Bielenson with an elite changeup. We've got Tyler Cleveland who can come in. We always seem to find arms, right? So I think we're not too bad. I think 90's there. So we've each touched, I guess, a little bit on the AL West. Gav, I want to start with you. Prediction, mate, for the AL West standings at the end of the season.
I hate jinxing myself. This just seems like the year to finally say it and be correct about it. I'm going to go with Mariners at the top. But also, I got the Houston Astros kind of tailing in the wrong direction right now. I don't have them at number 2. I have Texas, who has a ton of guys that are still first, second year, third year guys. Their outfielder, Evan Carter, a couple other guys that they got as well. I think the Rangers really have a good, solid team. And if Jack Leiter and a couple of those other guys can figure it out, I think they're going to elevate. Obviously, they just won a World Series a couple years back. So I think they're primed to take that number 2 spot. And then I got the Astros, but the pesky A's, just keep an eye on them. They might find an 80+ win season here. They do have some really good, obviously really good talent in the field, but it seems like they always have 1 or 2 arms in the bullpen that you've never heard of them before. And they're 98 to 100 and they're electric and they get traded at the deadline. So if they can find out their pitching staff around Severino, I think they might have a chance to even upseat the Astros as well. But for now, I'm going to go Astros, A's, and then Angels at the bottom.
Although, what about you? Where are you at with this one?
Kind of similar, kind of not. I am all about those pesky A's, though. I really think that they are going to improve this season. In fact, I have them finishing second in the division. I think that if they can rally around that youth core, if you're right, if they can really build around the pitching staff, and if they can kind of hold on to it, I don't think they have enough to win the division. I think, but to get that second spot, maybe even compete for a wild card spot, I think they're there. You're right. I don't want to jinx it, but I do have the Mariners winning it. I think they're just too strong, and if they can stay healthy, it's going to be really tough for me to really root against them and say that they're going to finish anywhere but first. I have the Stros in the middle of the pack. I think right now they're a middle of the pack team. I don't see them moving up or down much. I think right now they're kind of they need to rebuild, right? I think their glory days are a little bit behind them now, and they need to find the next version of that. And hopefully, it's not soon enough, so the Mariners can have a little time at the top. And then I have Rangers and Angels both at the bottom. The Angels I don't think are going anywhere, and neither are the Rangers. I think they can't figure it out. They have a new manager this year. He needs time to figure it out. Barring a miracle, I think those are the bottom 2 teams in the division this year.
Jake, where are you at? I think the Athletics are going to be the team that is the biggest difference between all of us. So where are you at, mate?
So I would say that I pretty much agree with Gavin for the most part. I think I have a hard time just discounting the Astros for not getting second somehow, just because, I don't know. They always find a way is what it feels like. They always find a way to make it interesting, not necessarily for the AL West this time because, as I mentioned earlier, some of the kind of prediction models and stuff like PECOTA and Fangraphs and all that, I mean, they have the Mariners winning by 4 to 5 games, pretty hefty margin for the most part. So I'm not necessarily expecting a whole lot of ultimate competition for the AL West crown. I mean, obviously things can happen. I think the Astros, it's hard. I have a hard time kind of deciding where to put them between them and the Rangers for second. I think I'm just going to go with the Astros for second, just because, what if they get a whole healthy year of Yordan Alvarez? Jose Altuve still definitely has, some production left in the tank. I don't know what the deal is with Hader, but I think the big thing with them is their bullpen right now is just not looking great. But, they still have Brian Abreu. I would say their starting pitching could be very hit or miss, right? Tatsuya Amai, we don't necessarily know what he's going to be when it comes to Major League production, but, he could be one of the better starters in the AL for all we know. And then I do think Mike Burrows might be a bit of a sneaky starting pitcher that they picked up from the Pirates. And in particular, I think he's going to be nasty against the Mariners because he's a pretty hefty, I think, splitter guy, if I remember correctly. But he's going to be tough for us. I think he's kind of the type of pitcher that could be our kryptonite a little bit. But I think if I were to put money on it, I'm going to go Mariners 1, Astros 2, Rangers 3, and then Athletics 4 and Angels 5. I do agree, though, with everyone kind of, giving the Athletics some love. I could absolutely see them kind of being that dark horse for that second spot and for that wild card spot. And frankly, I'm all for it because the Athletics, that would be exciting to see them in the playoffs. They have so many just awesome pieces. Nick Kurtz, obviously. I'm a big Brent Rooker guy. Shea Bangaliers, like him at catcher too. So it would be, I'd be really rooting for the Athletics to make some noise and make some waves in the AOS standings and kind of hopefully propel themselves up from that fourth spot.
Yeah, RIP Oakland.
Yep, for real. Should have never left.
Well, I think we were all on the same page with the Angels being last. I mean, I don't think there's any argument for them not to be there. I've obviously got the Mariners at number one. I mean, why not? We've spoken about it. Best off season. We've plugged holes. I like the fact that I think we were really smart with what we did. A lot of people, I'm sure we all saw over our timelines, when Polanco went, but how would have we all felt if we had have given that money, knowing what our budget constraints are? So I love what we've done. I love where we're at. For me, I've put Houston at 2 because when I was in Arizona, Gavin and I were meant to catch up, and I thought my best drinking days were over. And I hit a place called the Stillery. Turns out my best drinking days are not over. And I correlate that 100% to the Astros, where you think you're too old, you think you need an early bedtime, you don't think you've got the legs, and then you end up out all night scaring the absolute bejeez out of everyone. So I've got some serious PTSD. I think they've got enough left in the tank that they can scare us and they can be dangerous. I've got the Athletics at 3. I think my thing is, and Jake just mentioned a few names, they have potential superstars all over that roster. And if one of those guys, Butler, Kurt, any of these guys click like that, we talk about what Julio could mean to us if he plays like an MVP for the whole year. Can you imagine what Kurt's lifting up by another 20% is going to do that to that team? So, and then, another guy that gets forgotten a lot is Langoliers. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, because you're the encyclopedia, but I think he had the second most home runs as a catcher behind Cal. So
he's been pretty perennially like a top 5 catcher in the game for the past couple years. And, you have to say like the Athletics play in a AAA ballpark, right? So like that obviously helps with the offense too. And yeah, they're just Shea Langoliers, I think, is just one of the more underrated catchers in the game right now for sure.
So you've got him that we don't even speak about. So I reckon they're 3. Texas, while I completely hear what Gavin's saying, and there's a lot of guys that really are due a bounce back. Again, it's just kind of like that prove it to me sort of thing. And for the Angels, I mean, yeah, they've got Trout. I don't mind O'Hoppy. He played here in Australia, but beyond that, I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but yeah, like bring something else to me. So, speaking about catchers that hit the long ball, I want to combine 2 of the questions here. So, who, in your opinion, is going to lead the Mariners in home runs this season? And then on top of that, does Cal have more or less than 45 home runs in 2026? Aldo, I'll start with you this time, mate.
Yes, that's a good question. I really struggled with this when you sent us the prompts and everything. I think Julio is going to lead the team in home runs this year. I think he's due. I think he's due for that season that we all know he's capable of. I think that, Cal leading the team last season may have lit a fire in him competitively. Obviously, the friendly competition between teammates and amongst teammates. I think Julio's due. I don't think it's going to be that 50 home run mark or 60 home run mark like it was last year. I think Julio leads the team in home runs this season. I think he gets 47. I think Cal gets 40 to 45 home runs this year.
What about you, Jake? Where are you at, mate?
So I'm going to go a bit more on the conservative route here and just kind of go based off of the trends, right? Like I do think Cal's 60 home runs is an outlier, right? Like, I mean, I think that to expect him to hit close to that at all is just, I mean, I don't want to say ridiculous because that sounds a little bit harsh, but it's just more of like, I mean, let's be real here. If we're looking at the last like 3 to 4 years, right? And like Julio and Cal have been on the Mariners in almost the same amount of time. Granted, Julio in 2022 was kind of that rookie of the year type player, whereas Cal wasn't until the drought ending home run, right? Like he wasn't really a name yet until then. But then, if you go from 2023 to 2025, right? Like Cal has Julio beaten 2 out of those 3 years. Julio just barely beat him in 2023 by only 2 home runs, and they were both in the low 30s. So I would say for does Cal hit over 45 home runs? I would say no, which is okay, by the way. And I do want to make that note very clear. That is okay. If any Yankee fans are watching this, it is totally okay. And we're not going to be crying if he doesn't hit 60 again. I don't think there's not a lot of people that necessarily think he's going to hit 60 again. So, some people might, whatever. And then I would say for Julio, I think he's going to get that 30-30 season again, which is exactly what you should kind of hope from Julio in a season. I think Cal is going to kind of end up in the mid 30s to maybe low 40s at the highest. That's kind of my guess here. And so I think Julio is going to be a little bit below that, maybe like, if I were to put a number on it, let's go with 34. Why not? We'll go with 34.
Gavin, what about you, mate?
I'm glad you said that too, because I was leaning towards that. I do have Julio as his breakout season, at least from a power standpoint. I actually have him for a dark horse 40-40 season this year. I think he reaches 40, and it might be right on the cusp of 39 to 42 home runs. I think he's somewhere in that arena. If I'm putting a blanket number on it, I'll go ahead and just say 41. And then for Cal going, it's a good over-under at 45. I'm going to go off of he has one more, I guess, kind of elite home run season in him, and I'm going to go with over at 47. I think he's got one more in him, and I don't know. It's that, that Vince Carter meme. I got one more in me. I don't know if he's got more catching behind this year. Like, because do you want your catcher playing 140 plus games and that type of wear and tear on the knees? When is that transition to DH? So I think as a catcher, this is probably one of his last elite seasons, and I think he can get it done at 47, 48 home runs. But to Jake's point, that's what I kind of meant to kind of lean on earlier. If he goes out and gives you 30 to 35 home runs, that's incredible. That's awesome. And we're okay with 30 to 35 home runs. I think that's the more realistic one. And so in that scenario, I do actually have Julio leading the pack with the 40 plus bombs.
Yeah, I think we've all we do, but the general population has to get through our head that's expecting Cal to do this year after year after year is just not. It's not going to happen, and we can't be harsh on him, right? Like, there's a special type of player that pulls out those numbers, and I'm not saying that Cal's not special. It's just that is just such a rare air. So I do have Cal leading the team, with the caveat being that if Randy decides to be a dick, he might just go, screw it. I'm taking everything. So I have Cal at around 40. I think, I've heard that 45, Gav, of like that sort of the line. I've got him at 38, though. I think we're going to have a more even spread of home runs this year. I agree Julio's due. Yeah, I think he's sort of around that maybe 35, 36, 37. With the 40 bags, I definitely don't mind the 40 bags suggestion as well, but I think Cal does it. I am just cautious. I'm a big mental person, just of how the fan base treats him. And I just want us all to realize that, like, absolutely reiterating what you guys have said, if he's hitting 35 to 45, that is still a wonderful, wonderful year from a catcher. So, Gav, I'm going to ask you this next one first, because I'm aware that you're about at D-Day for having to go for dad duty. So, what starter will have the lowest ERA for the Mariners in 2026, mate?
It's not even close. It's Brian Wu. I think Brian Wu is due for a Cy Young campaign. I think he's going to be in the top 3. And honestly, as I've talked with my friends off of camera, because I might be a little too shy to say it, but I'll say it now. I got him as a top 3 pitcher in all of MLB baseball, and I'm not super shy to say that anymore. I have him actually just right there with Garrett Crochet, and maybe slightly below, Tarek Skubal and some of those other guys. I think Brian Wu has incredible stuff. And he's going to age like wine in this league, in my opinion. The VAA, the way he gets down the mound, coming from a former pitching coach myself, he's got something that some of the other guys just don't have. And granted, it's nice to have some other things. Logan Gilbert's got extension. Other guys have Kirby's, dropped his arm, so he's got more of a HAA or horizontal approach angle and everything. So he's getting more movement on his pitches that way. But I really think that Bryan Woo has the multidimensional effect, the velo, everything combines for him to have just like the great season. He's ramped up his innings. I think he's going to have 200 plus innings, and he's going to be your true ace. He may not be your game one starter. He may not be your opening day guy, but I think at the end of the year, he's the guy you look back and say, this was our ace. So I'm going to go with Bryan Woo on that one.
This is why I bring you guys in. Gavin's talking about extension. He's talking about stuff on the mound. I'm here like, oh yeah, Woo's got good vibes. This is exactly what I bring you guys in.
He's also got good vibes.
Good vibes are like that. Yeah, there should be like a little thing on Baseball Savant with a good vibes little slider there. But mate, I know you're going to have to go. Stick around for as long as you want if you've got some more in you.
Yeah.
But
thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, and we'll make sure we get you guys on again. So, Jake, what about you? Are you going with Woo? Is Kirby finally showing a Cy Young year that everyone's talked about? Is Logan bouncing back? Like, where are you at, mate?
So I'm gonna be biased here. My favorite current Mariner right now is Logan Gilbert, so I'm gonna go with him. For me, it's just I love the way he pitches, right? Like, not from his delivery to his pitch mix to just the way he pitches in general. I just love everything about it, right? Like, just the delivery is so violent with the big kick and yank up and then just driving down the mound. The dude is super tall. He has that extension, right? And, I do think like last year, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, a lot of his struggles had to do with being injured, right? He lost a lot of time. He was out for about a month, and the biggest thing for him, I will say, when he came back, it was not necessarily that he was having bad outings in like the earned run department. He was just having bad outings because he wasn't efficient. Like, that was his problem. He was, it was taking him 20-something pitches to get through innings, and he could only go 4 or 5, and it was just over and over again. So I think that's the thing, right? Like, his bad year was not an inflated ERA. It wasn't giving up a bunch of runs. It was just he could not really help his bullpen a lot by eating innings. And a lot of that, I think, just ultimately has to do with the fact that, he had that time off. He lost a step a little bit. He's coming into this year full bore. We haven't heard any issues at all for him, right? And there's a reason he was the opening day starter last year, which he earned, by the way, because they very easily could have given it to Luis Castillo, being the veteran, gave him the opening day nod again, right? And they made the right call of giving it to Logan. Now, Bryan Woo, I think, is close, right? And I think the only reason I am just I don't want to say skeptical of Bryan Woo, because I think he's going to be a great pitcher. I have no doubts about that. For me, it's just I worry about, is the league going to adjust a little bit, right? Because, he still has a pitch mix that is so fastball heavy that, I personally just tend to take to guys like Logan Gilbert, who are much more kitchen sink type pitchers, who, you keep that hitter off balance by having 5 different pitches you can go to, whereas Bryan Woo only has a few, really. Like I said, not to say Bryan Woo's going to be bad or anything. It's just I like Logan Gilbert for like the upside of Logan Gilbert, I think, is the highest on the staff ultimately. It's just whether he does that or not. So I'm going to go with Logan Gilbert. You mentioned Kirby really quick. I do think Kirby is going to take that step forward here. It's just I'm not convinced that his ceiling is as high as Bryan Woo or Logan Gilbert, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. So I'm going to go Logan Gilbert. That's my guy, and I'm excited. Hopefully he'll be opening day again. We'll see. That's going to be an interesting thing once we figure that out, because it definitely could go to Woo. Who knows? But yeah, I'm going to go Logan Gilbert for sure.
Aldo, what about you? Where are we at?
This is a tough one as well. I happen to be in the audience when Bryan Woo had a no through 8 against the Yankees. I was at that game. Just seeing the way this man pitches the ball in person to a team that has Judge and Chisholm and Stanton and all these guys, and that they couldn't touch his stuff. It's very hard to root against him to saying that he is going to have the lowest ERA this season. Logan Gilbert, Jake, is phenomenal. You're right. And I think you're right. His arsenal alone will give him such a competitive edge over a lot of people. Man, but having that 1-2 punch of Wu and Gilbert back to back, I'm not mad at it. It's so close to call. Think for just the Arsenal sake itself, I think Logan Gilbert ends up with a lower ERA than Brian Wu does. But if I'm talking a difference of a 3.02 ERA versus a 2.99 ERA, then I'm happy, right? That's what you want out of your top two guys in the rotation. And you're right. We're forgetting about Kirby. We're forgetting about Castillo, and we're forgetting about those bullpen games that we know we'll have. Our pitching staff is phenomenal. It is one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. It has been for a few seasons now, and it's just gotten even better now that Brian Wu is up there competing for a number one spot, competing to be the best pitcher in MLB. There was a period where he was the best pitcher in MLB last season, and that was no argument. He was on fire. Will that continue? Only time will tell, but he's so young. This entire pitching staff is so young, aside from Castillo. The upside is just phenomenal for every single guy. Wu and Gilbert, though, are your number one and number two punch. They're going to have probably the two lowest ERAs in all of baseball.
Yeah, I was on the fence, and then I went to one camp, and then I went to the other camp, and now I'm back on the fence and Jake really hit the nail on the head of Wu's stuff, which he brings to the table, is so elite. But I've never played baseball, so I, rightly or wrongly, always correlate this to sports that I've played. So if I'm playing basketball and I know I have a move where I'm heading to the elbow and then I'm going to spin and then I'm going to fade away, that's unstoppable. You can't guard that. But when you know what's coming over and over and over again, you slide another defender over there and you block me. So I need to come up with something else in my bag of tricks. And eventually the defense cottons on. I think with Wu, we haven't heard anything from him, right? We haven't heard that he's added anything. He's so quiet from his camp. I mean, even when I was in Arizona, bloke was unreachable. He's so locked in. Until he has something else, I have to go with Logan Gilbert. And like Jake said, no slight on Wu at all. No slight on anyone. I struggle to see how you can roll out the exact same thing for another season when there's so much tape on you, when blokes have seen what you can do, and you can have sort of the same results. I still think he's going to be absolutely fantastic, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does lead the team in ERA. But the word kitchen sink was thrown around between the three of us, and that's what Logan Gilbert has. And we forget. We want to talk last year. The rotation didn't live up to expectations. All right, well, Kirby started the year on the IL, so he was behind the 8 ball for the entirety of the year. Miller was dealing with his elbow stuff, and he's coming into the year dinged up. Logan then picked up his injury, and was he really right from the get-go? There's all these questions that only he knows. And then Castillo we know he's home and away splits. We know that, and we wear that, but he was a workhorse. And for the cost, and I think, Jake, you and I might have had this discussion at some point, he just gets thrown around as a trade chip all the time because people foresee that there's money attached to him. But when you look at his output compared to what he's actually getting paid, we're on a bloody good deal here as a team. So, I think that the rotation was talked down on a little bit last season. I think Logan was talked down on, and I think that he comes back with an absolute vengeance. I think that his stuff is even more refined. I think he's healthy. And although you're the odd man out here, but there is dad strength that you inherit when you have kids. Man's got it now. I can't go against him. So yeah, I'm going to go with Logan with Wu a close second. But if Wu can add something else, I mean, I don't really care if Wu leads or not because we're not even having that discussion. If he adds something else, we're in a Cy Young discussion, and that's really bloody exciting. So next one, Aldo, I'll start with you. Julio, 30-30 season. For him, yes or no? And again, we sort of touched on it a bit earlier, but what are the home runs that you predict if he is having that 30-30 season?
Yeah, I mean, we go back to the question, right? I think I think he's a 40-plus home run hitter this season. I think he's due, like I said earlier, for that breakout year of power, right? We all know what he is defensively, right? We all know the no-fly zone. He showed it off in the World Baseball Classic by robbing Judge. He's there. He's older. He's stronger. He's I'm not sure if he's more mature yet because we haven't seen that yet from him in the locker room, but he's due for this power season now that he's older and that strength is up. I think he leads the team in home runs this season. I think it's above 45, not by much. I said 47. I'm going to stick to that number. I think a 30-30 season is beyond possible. I think I don't want to say an expectation because it's obviously baseball is one of the hardest sports in the world, but a 30-30 season for Julio is kind of where I'm expecting. I'm expecting a 40-30 season from him. That's my number for him. 47's a home run. To throw a number, I'll go 33, 30, 32. But I think it's a 40-30 season, not a 30-30.
Jake, what about you? Because if Aldo's right, we're in for a pretty good year from our center fielder.
Yeah, I mean, you should hope that Aldo's right, honestly, because I'm a little bit lower on that. So if Aldo's right, then perfect. I'll take it. I think, yes, on the 30-30 season, like at this point, it just feels like his skill set is just kind of made up where, like, unless he misses a significant amount of time, it's almost impossible for him not to get 30-30 somehow. So I would say yes, like obviously with the caveat that he's healthy enough to get there. And I'm going to go mid 30s for homers. Now, I will say though that like, if there was ever a year within like the last few where I could see him kind of being more what Aldo said, getting over that 40 mark and all that, it could be this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with just like a mindset change, right? Like obviously I don't know Julio personally. I'm not in his head. He hasn't really spoken a whole lot to the media either. But, you know, just kind of like harken yourself back to after we got eliminated in the ALCS, right? Like you heard that in Julio's yell in Brian Wu's interview, right? And Julio, as symbolic as it was the last strikeout, and also the strikeout was like the Julio strikeout. If you remember how the sequence and all that, the high and inside fastballs, the slider away in the dirt, right? That he chases after. I think, you know, and this is just me being too hopeful. I am hoping that the dudes in the clubhouse, by and large, have that mindset from day one, from before camp even started. They have unfinished business, right? And this is the first time in a long time that they have that type of mindset going into the season, right? Because the unfinished business isn't, you know, not making the playoffs. The unfinished business is like, we were 8 outs away from the World Series, and Julio knows he's a leader in this clubhouse, right? Like it is Julio and Cal are the main Mariners. When you think of the Mariners, those are the two guys you think of, right? And I think Julio is at an age now, I think he's going to be 25 this year, 24, 25. You know, I think this is the year that he has that mindset from the jump, that he knows not necessarily that he has to be the guy every single year, because I think that's where he gets into those slumps, right? But I think he knows that he needs to be on his A game from day one, and he, you know, is one of the life forces of this lineup. So I absolutely could see him being a bit, you know, there's kind of the first half Julio stereotype that he's kind of been in now, whether that's overblown or not. I think we're going to see a hot start in April. I think we're going to see him hit, you know, 7 home runs in April, 8 home runs, because he usually, you know, his slump is obviously the strikeout issues, but it's also his power kind of takes a little bit to really start hitting. I think the WBC is going to help. He hit a tank in the WBC, and I think we're going to see that April, that really good April that we saw. And, you know, I hope Aldo's right. Like I said, I hope it's over 40. But if it's not, you know, I think mid 30s is kind of where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I look at 24 home runs in 2024 was his worst tally for steals. And obviously, Aldo, you'll remember because that's when we linked up in Pittsburgh. He was carrying that leg injury through there as well. For steals was 2024. That was his lowest. So he's carrying that leg injury. And I remember us watching the game, and you know, it was like he was running with a stiff leg to first base, and then he would keep running through first because stopping just was so painful on that leg. So if that's the worst that we have, and remembering he played a lot of games through that injury, he really didn't have any time off. You know, if that's sort of the floor, worst case scenario, that's really good. 30 last year, 37 in 2023. 37 in 2023. I think he's got all of that on his side. I think there's enough numbers there to go. We bank him in for the 30 steals. The home runs is an interesting one. I do really think he beats last season's total of 32. Jake, you mentioned he is a slow starter. I think the WBC is just like we take a month off that slow start, right? Like he is up and about, and the passion that we've seen these guys play with at the World Baseball Classic, I think he comes in energized. We talk about the hurt from last season. We talk about the way that it happened, which you articulated so well. One thing that I was really impressed with him at the World Baseball Classic, someone DM'd me and goes, Julio's not hitting much. And granted, I'd really only watched Team Australia at that point, which there wasn't much to watch because we didn't make the semis. But I started watching his games, and I saw greater plate discipline, especially in. I was watching a game the other day, and it was the US game actually, and I saw greater plate discipline. I remember tweeting, going, "This is Julio's moment," expecting him to swing at something and hoping that he connects, and I saw a maturity at the plate. And I thought, wow, this is, for a guy that's playing with a lot of passion and a lot of emotion, as a former athlete, not really, but kind of, I know when I'm passionate, I sometimes get caught up in the moment and my process and my head can sometimes go in the bin. He stayed with his process. He stayed with his approach, and I was really proud of him. And I sort of thought, wow, if we're getting this from the jump this season, this could be incredible. So, I mean, what did I say? 32 last year. I think he's got 34, 35 in him. And the steals, I mean, I'm happy if he steals 40 bags. I think it's well and truly 37 in 2023. He's got that maturity now. He's got the full green light. Yeah, it's definitely a 30-30 season. And yeah, just mark me in for the mid-30s on the home runs. A guy that won't hit mid-30s on the home runs, though, is Cole Young. And I feel like there is a sliding scale within Mariners fans of Cole Young is the next big thing and look out for him, and Cole Young is no good. And I want to know, Jake, where do you sit on the Cole Young Richter scale, and what do you predict for him in 2026?
So for Cole Young, I mean, he's been hitting very well in spring training, which has been nice. He's been heating up a lot recently as well. I think he's going to have a fine year. I don't think he's necessarily going to tear it up or anything like that. I think he's going to be, a slightly above league average bat, probably average defense as well. I think if you get a little over 2 F4 from him, you should be happy with that probably, because although he has kind of that top prospect pedigree that he's had for the last few years, at the end of the day, I mean, the majors are a different beast, right? Like if he can just be productive, like I'll take it. I don't necessarily think he'll be, I don't think he's going to hit the longest home run for the Mariners this year like he did last year, which nice little fun fact in like 10 years for trivia if you really want to use it. But yeah, I think, hopefully you'll just kind of see, especially him getting his job kind of just taken in September last year, where he just didn't end up being played at all. I think he's going to have something to prove, obviously, coming into this year. He knows that they're going to give him the runway to perform. And if there is ever a time for him to kind of cement himself into the Mariners organization, it's now. And so, yeah, I think, I'm going to go pretty modest for the most part in that, with, league average bat is kind of what I'm hoping for from him, average defense. And yeah, if you can get a little over 2 F4 from him, I'll take that all day, and kind of just hope that you can get something more from there. If he can get that 2 F4, and then you kind of see those signs where like we could get more out of him, he has more to his profile than that, then I'll be happy if there's kind of a good optimistic outlook after the year.
So I think Cole Young is summed up in one word this season as reliable. I think we get a Cole Young who's going to flash power, but like you, I don't think he's going to get that longest home run. Really impressed with him watching him live in Arizona. A lot of pop coming off that bat. Looks a lot calmer at the plate. And again, I think sometimes we forget, Jake, like when these guys come up, and Aldo as well, like especially because you cover a lot of sports. Yeah, these kids are so young. Like these are kids playing, and they're coming in and they're playing against the best grown men in the world. And it is okay for someone to struggle. I mean, we look at Cal. It's not like Cal was this superstar overnight. I mean, Cal had some time up, had to go and reassess his game. And you look at guys like, I hate to say it because his name's nearly sacrilegious in Mariners circles, but Jared Kelenic, meant to be this great player and just can't stick it out at the major league level. Like just because you have top prospect pedigree doesn't necessarily make you a sure thing. And how many guys do we see rolling around? Look at Tariq Skubal. Like he was a late draftee. So I think Cole has gotten that year out of the way. He's had some learning experiences. A fire's been lit under him, especially because we know about Polanco's limited range of movement, and sometimes the glove could be a little bit, So to lose your spot there. Also, people were commenting on just the strength of his throw, but also he did have a little bit of a shoulder niggle, I'm led to believe, in spring training, which was another one of the reasons why he didn't make the opening day roster. Not the only one, but it obviously did contribute. So you get a full off season to heal that. So I think we see a little bit more range and more accuracy. I look at last year, and in the first parts when he came up, he hit 230. The next third of his sample size, he hit 290. And then the last third, it's not even worth mentioning. So if he can just find something in the middle there, if he can hit 250, 260, be a little bit better with that glove, be a little bit better with his throws, be a little bit more disciplined at the plate, draw a couple more walks, I'm really happy with that. Jake, you mentioned the glove, and I think it's really important because if we look at Ferrer, a lot of his out, like he's a guy that we really do need a really good infield behind him if he's going to be, as successful as we hope he can be. So, hopefully that glove continues to improve. And what I would just really like to see from Cole Young is reliability this year and flashes to show that we're going to get a little bit more in 27, a little bit more in 28, and he just turns into a really solid homegrown guy and a really solid piece in our core. So that's me. Aldo, what about you? Where are you at for Cole?
I mean, you boys, you both hit the nail on the head there. I mean, and Nate, I really want to go back to what you're saying. He is so young, and I think that's what a lot of Mariner fans are forgetting. Yes, he's a top prospect. I think he's still technically our number one prospect, but he's so young. You gotta give him time. Last year wasn't the all-star breakout that everyone thought it was going to be. Oh, here's the top prospect, but that's fine. That's fine. Let the man develop. Let him grow his game. Guess what? That second baseman spot is pretty much his. I think it's his now. I think he ended last season hitting 211 at the plate, right? Let's get above that now. Let's go for 230, 240, 250. If we can maintain that level, get better defensively, there's no reason why he can't lose his starting spot this year. He has so much time to grow. I think us Mariner fans were so hungry and we're so thirsty for success because we haven't had it for so long that when we hear a guy like Cole Young and we're like, he's going to help us get over that hump, he's going to win us a World Series, we can't put that pressure on this guy. At the end of the day, he's still a kid. He's still one of the youngest players in the league. Let him develop. Let him develop the right way. You said Kellenic earlier. Well, look what happened to him, right? Same thing. We rushed into it. Thought he was going to be the next big thing. He ended up flopping out. The mental health game, I think, is so important here. But look what he's doing this spring. He's raking. He's mashing. He's doing what we want him to do this spring going into the beginning of the season. If he can maintain that, get a little bit more consistent at the plate, a little bit more consistent defensively, I think he has a great foundation to be a phenomenal ball player in the next few years. Give him time. That's all he needs is time.
Oh, I want to ask you this quickly. He's the first bat, right? We've had our drafting be so heavily focused on pitching to rebuild those stocks. And, as you do, you switch from one to the other. Cole Young, Colt Emerson, they are the first in the line of promised bats that are coming through. And I know guys are wanting to rush Colt Emerson in. What did he have, like 6 games in AAA? Like, is there an aspect, Jake, do you reckon, where there's this added pressure just because because traditionally we've not spent in free agency. Traditionally, we don't go out and get a Josh Naylor and then keep a Josh Naylor. Is there an added pressure on those two boys simply because we are just so desperate for bats? Like, is that an extra little thing in your opinion?
I mean, sure, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, these guys are humans, right? Like, they're going to feel the pressure. They're going to have their own ways of dealing with it. Some people are better at it than others, right? And, specifically for Cole Young, I mean, second base in particular has been just a revolving door since Robinson Cano, mind you. Like, it has not been held down by any specific person since then. Like, that's how long we're talking at this point. So, I mean, of course, there's a big thing where he needs to hopefully narrow that job down. And then I think with Cole Emerson, like from everything I've heard, like it sounds like he's probably going to be dealing with it in a mentally very well. Seems like he's a very confident person, and he's really young though, right? Like even younger than Cole Young, which is like I feel like I'm saying a riddle at this point when I say young so much. But it just at the end of the day, these dudes are human, so absolutely they're going to feel that pressure. But I do think that people also have to take into account like T-Mobile Park is not a hitter's park, right? Like it is known to be suppressive offensively, so you kind of have to, I guess, change your expectations with that as well, right? Like it's going to be very rare for a bat just to come in and kind of do what Josh Naylor did last year, where they almost like made T-Mobile Park like it felt like batting practice every time they were up to the plate, right? It's just simply not going to happen, and you shouldn't expect that from Cole Young or Cole Emerson. So, absolutely, that is a pressure thing. I don't necessarily think that was Young's issue, though. I don't think it was the expectations. It was just more of the Mariners like got into a very serious, playoff picture. Like they were needing to win games. He wasn't coming up. Like they kind of had to be harsh in that way. Now, when you're starting an opening day, you have April, you have May, you have June to prove yourself, and you have those months to get some leeway, prove yourself, and help this team win games. Now, if you aren't doing that by that time, then yeah, they're going to have to figure out something else. And that's why, getting a guy like Brendan Donovan is really helpful, right? He can slot into second base and hold it down, and we know he's going to be solid. So I just think it's a matter of, when the way Cole Young gets called up in the middle of the year, when you're thick in the playoff push, doesn't start performing, gets benched, right? Like that's tough. This is a whole different thing coming into this season. So that's why I'm a bit more confident in him this time.
So, Aldo, if you were, I guess, the GM of the Mariners today, and I said, mate, you can upgrade one position on this roster, where would you don't have to give me names, because obviously that's too broad of a, if you want to give me names, you can, but it's so broad. How does the other team value them? Can we trade with them? Do we have anything to offer? But what is the one area of this roster that you would upgrade if you were in charge today?
Yeah. I think our management has done a great job this offseason in filling those holes that we needed, right? Brendan Donovan coming in at third, bringing in Ref Schneider to help at the DH position. If I'm nitpicking now, because it truly is nitpicking, I think the position that we kind of look over because it's such a household name in Seattle now is J.P. Crawford at short. This is not just opinion. This is statistically, he was one of the worst defensive shortstops in all of the bigs last year. It's just a fact. Let's take away what he did offensively. He was a rock solid bat for us. He came in clutch at the 9th spot. We saw him hit those game winning home runs the last season a few times. But defensively, that up the middle, second and short are I think are two holes. Cole Young now has had an off season to develop and really get his mentality going. As Jake was saying, right? You hit around the nail on the head there again, Jake. Coming into the middle of the season, Seattle in the middle of a playoff push, in the middle of a division championship push, right? Because they weren't just aiming for the playoffs; they wanted to win that title. And then not really living up to that standard that was needed at the time. Now you don't have that pressure anymore because now you're starting fresh. JP, same thing. I think he was so high, right? Wins a Gold Glove in 2020, is a great player for us for so long, household name in Seattle, truly. But then you start looking those defensive stats, and like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. He did have that error. Oh, he did. Well, yeah, he did miss that play. We are allowing a lot of stuff up the middle. Is that okay? Me nitpicking, GM today, short and second are two positions that we desperately need to improve. I shouldn't say desperately. I should say definitely need to improve. But benefit of the doubt as always. Cole Young has time, and I love J.P. Crawford. He's such a great player, such a great teammate. Can he pick it up defensively? Yes, he can. But guys, we're forgetting he's a Gold Glover. I mean, that's in his arsenal. So benefit of the doubt for both positions. But GM today, it's short and second for sure.
Jake, what about you? What are you wheeling and dealing on, mate?
Well, clearly I would trade for Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge, obviously. But no, I would say, I mean, it's hard because, like, obviously I don't have any names right now because, frankly, there's no free agents that are, like, notable enough to sign or anything like that. But, you know, if I was going just straight up, like, what's the position I would prefer? If there was anything that the Mariners front office didn't do this offseason that I was hoping they would is one more high leverage arm, right? And the reason I say that is that bullpen was worked to the gills like last year. It was ridiculous. Edward Bizardo, by the way, like, I don't know when his arm's going to fall off. Maybe it never will, but like, he was pitching, it felt like every day. He was pitching 3 days in a row. And then, you know, just with Andres Munoz, right, and Matt Brash and you know, Gabe Spire, it would be nice to have one more guy that's just like a high leverage person to kind of go to. You know, that's why I was really upset last trade deadline when, you know, we didn't end up getting Joan Duran. We didn't end up getting Griffin Jacks. I would have loved either of those dudes. I mean, we'd probably be in the World Series, frankly, if that was the case. So that's kind of the move I hoped they would make in some way, shape, or form. I don't know who that would have been. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing because they were just so overworked last year that and also the WBC, right? Like, some of our guys have pitched, you know, up to, you know, I think Edward Bizardo was around 4-ish innings in the WBC, which, I mean, is not a lot, but at the same time, people have to take into account the intensity of those innings is a lot different than spring training. I think that would have been a big help. And I think if I was GM, like, that would have been the move. If, let's say, we were back in the off season, let's say the beginning of the off season, you know, aside from everything else they did, that's the one other thing that I wish they would have done that would have really, I think, made it a much more complete and almost perfect off season. That's where I was at with that.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with Aldo. You know, a little bit better defensively in the infield is never a bad decision. It's never going to go astray. But I had the bullpen as well. Along the lines with you, Jake, the bullpen got worn down, and it was worn down the year prior to Matt Brash having Tommy John, and he was flogged into the ground. And I worry about the wear and tear. And then we saw Munoz had constant trouble with his back last year. We talk about Bizardo and Vargas and the amount that they were throwing. There is a concern over the health and the wear and tear. There's also the part of the bullpen arms are so volatile. Unless they're a top-end guy, and even the top-end guys have a little bit of fluctuation, but in the bullpen, you just don't know what you're getting from guys year on year. Bizardo and Vargas, they were two guys that people were calling to be DFA'd before the start of last year. They turn out to be really important pieces for us on our run. But we don't know what they're going to be this year. And I don't want us to rest on our laurels. And then I have Gabe Spire. And I love Gabe Spire. And I'd love to have a chat because I think there's a resilient story with him of having taken so long, like Leo Rivas, so long to find your role in Major League Baseball. But there's still part of me that I just have to admit I'm just not as high as some of the other guys, you know, in the content creation space on him. And then I look at Ferrer and I go, okay, we really do need gold gloves in that infield for him to be at maximum capacity. I do like what we have coming through, and I'll speak about some of those guys later. And I like them not in high leverage positions. And that's not to say they can't be, but you can't expect these guys to come in. So one more proven name in there, I would have been really happy with, because what's the worst that happens, guys? We have too many high leverage arms. Oh my gosh, what a horrible scenario for a baseball team with World Series aspirations to be in, having too many high leverage arms. So again, like Aldo said, it's nitpicking. I mean, there's other things we can look at now. We can look out, you know, in the corner where we've got Robles, Rayleigh, and Canzone, but I kind of feel okay that one of those guys is going to click. I look at Randy. I got concerns about his attitude. Jake, we're in a group chat and I said, he just doesn't seem like a guy that I could have a beer with right now. Like, I don't know whether that's his personality because I don't know the guy. But, you know, if there's an issue between him and Cal, do you need to look there? But that's too hypothetical. I'm working on fact, and I just feel that the bullpen is the one area. If I could have a magic wand, I don't know who it'd be. Asking prices were through the roof, but I would definitely do that. speaking of somebody who was perhaps a little bit worn down, we obviously flogged the proverbial poo out of Bryce Miller in 2024. Now, that did earn him a sub-3 ERA, and I sent this question out because I spoke to Bryce. I was really lucky to have 15, 20 minutes while I was with the Mariner Mojo boys talking to Bryce, and I said, how do you feel, mate? And I know no player is ever going to be like, oh, Nate, I feel horrible, mate. I'm no good this season. But take him for his word. He said he felt great. Then he had a little bit of a pull-up, and now, probably isn't right for opening day. Do we see a return in 2026 of the sub-3 ERA that we saw in 2024? Aldo, what do you think?
It's so hard. Injuries are so difficult to a pitching staff and to an arm. Although obviously we've seen so many pitchers come back from major injuries and throw like they've never thrown before. But a sub-3 ERA in today's game is so difficult to attain. And I think that given his injuries, given his timelines, now given his injury coming into this season, a sub-3 will be very, very difficult to maintain out of him. I'm not saying that it's going to be a 4 or 5. I mean, if he gives me an ERA of 3.20, 3.30, I won't be upset at that, right? I'll take that out of your third or fourth starter. But a sub-3 with like you boys are saying, with a bullpen that we could have beefed up, but we didn't. But it's still there. With his injury history now, it's all about. I think now it's all on him. If he can stay healthy physically, but even more importantly, if he can stay healthy mentally, I think we're looking at a just above 3 ERA season. I don't think he gets back to sub-3. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've got the Bryce Miller rainbow from the rookie debut behind me. I've got 3 cases of Bryce Miller cards up there. If he was to ever walk into my house, I think he'd call the police. It's a bit weird, actually, because I'm a grown man collecting cardboard of another grown man. But but that question, I put the feelers out to a few listeners, and that was a question that came back. And my initial thoughts was, as biased as I am towards Bryce, like you said, Aldo, it's so hard to get there. He was also unknown coming in. It was just, time has evolved. And I am not a doctor, and I'll preface this, I am not a doctor at all. But I'm a little bit worried that there wasn't a cleanup in the elbow. Like, if there's bone spurs, like, I've known athletes that have had bone spurs and not had it cleaned up, and then it just continues to flare and flare. So, there is a little bit of a red flag there for me. But we did see the Toronto series. We did see him be able to ramp it up. But again, we're going to ask our starters to go long in games with the bullpen we've got. We're going to expect them not to blow up late. That's going to be a challenge for all of them not to do. A couple of guys can be susceptible. I don't think we see a sub-3 ERA again. It was a question that came through. It was a question that actually came through twice. So I was like, oh, is this what Gen Popper are hoping for? But yeah, if he's a 3.2, 3.3, I'm thrilled. Jake, are you status quo on this, or are we wrong? Is there really a feeling out there that Bryce can get back to under that?
Sub-3, I would say no. And I think that's just because that's like kind of like what Aldo said. That's just hard to do now. And I just feel like, I think he's going to be in the 3 to 4 range for sure. At the end of the day, even with, some of the injury history he has and all that, he's still a solid pitcher. He still has some great stuff. So I'm not necessarily worried that he's going to, balloon to like a 6 or something crazy like that. It's just sub-3. I would be stoked if Gilbert or Wu did that, let alone Miller, right? Like, I just have a hard time believing that he'll get there. That also wasn't in a full season either. I don't remember how many innings it was necessarily, but it's not 32 starts of sub-2 ERA, or sub-3, sorry. So I would say no, but that's obviously not a knock on Miller, right? Like, I think most pitchers are in the, between 3 and 4, and I think that's probably where he's going to be at. I do think he's going to, finish probably ahead of Luis maybe in ERA, but I just don't necessarily see him still, especially with the injuries and all that keep cropping up. Like, it's going to be really hard for him to maybe take a step above guys like Kirby or Wu or Gilbert. So I still think he's pretty solidly the probably number 4 at this point.
So I've got 4 questions left. These 4 are more just opinion more than fact. And I guess it's just a chance, like I mentioned before. Jake's got his own channel, Raise The Trident, probably the hidden gem, I would say, of all Mariner stuff. While you can come on here and we're all about interviews and getting to know the players personally and bringing positive vibes, Jake can just break down the game at a level that I can't. I don't have time to. And Aldo, obviously, just one of the most well-rounded fans. So for people to get to know us and a bit more about our beliefs in the Mariners system, Aldo, I'll start with you. What is one player that you overhype on this roster or even in the farm system? Who is it?
It's Randy Arozarena. I mean, you saw it. You've been with me, Nate, when you saw my love for that man. I love Randy Arozarena. He's been one of my favorite players since he played in Tampa. And when the Mariners signed him, I was so hyped on him. Obviously, he has struggles, and now with the World Baseball Classic drama, Nate, you and I have talked about it. I think it's just I don't know. But I love his game, man. When he's on, he's on. When he's on, he's your most reliable bat. He's your most reliable fielder. He is just a lift in the dugout and it can elevate the guys around him. I mean, we go back to that World Series when he was in Tampa and how he just elevated that team. Right, it was the COVID season, but still, I mean, you were a bad managerial decision away from winning a World Series against the Dodgers. So let's take that for what it is. He comes to Seattle. He has his boy Julio next to him. If he can keep it mentally, if he can just be that guy we know he can be, man, he's just a phenomenal guy to have in your lineup, and I love him so much. And I think that he was just a great new piece to this puzzle that is the Mariners. And it, I was joking around with another Mariner fan at work, and I said, we were talking about Diaz. Diaz now signed with the Dodgers, and when the Mariners let him go, man, I'm like, man, it was such a Mariner thing to do. I think we're going away from that now, where the Mariner thing to do now is to invest in these guys and realizing now, hey, we can compete here. We can compete for a World Series. We can compete for an AL championship. Why not invest in these players that can get us there? And I do believe Randy is one of those guys. He's not your number 1 bat. He's not your number 2 bat, but your number 3, your number 4 bat that can get you the runs that you need, that steal you some bases, that can lift up your dugout. That's what you want. I mean, pitching staff aside, bullpen aside, the end of the day, we need to score runs. We need to get hits. We need to hit home runs. And I love Randy Arozarena so much that I think he's that guy. He's definitely my guy that I overhype a lot. Don't get me wrong. I love Julio too. I'm staring at his Funko and his autograph right in front of me. But Randy Arozarena, man, he's just my guy. I don't know what it is about him, but he's my dude.
So I've got my Bryce Miller shrine. It's fair to say you've probably got a Randy shrine somewhere. But when all of this WBC stuff came out, I messaged you straight away because obviously, I speak English, but it's very Australian, so it's hard to understand at the best times. But I have no idea, absolutely no idea online of what's AI and what's real. So I messaged you and said, hey, can you translate this for me? Because I know I speak with a really, I've got dry as hell humor. And what's in a transcript may not necessarily be the way the voice inflections are going. So you were my go-to guy. I was like, hey, I need the lowdown. Like, are there cultural jokes in here? Is there a cultural barrier? Is there a language? Like, what's the go? And we had that conversation about it. And I'm hoping that Randy has the same sense of humor that I do. I'm hoping that it's a bit that he's playing along with because some guys just like to cause a little bit of drama and like to be like, oh, no, I had you guys going for ages. Like, we're cool, we're fine. And I hope that he and Cal can sit down in a room and have a beer. And although maybe there's a space there for you, maybe you can be like the Mariners' official relationship rebuilder or something and get everyone on the same page.
I mean, we spoke about it, right? And I said that, I did watch the interview in Spanish and watching it, I did feel like he's kind of, messing with all of us. I feel like he had this opportunity to be like, let me mess with everybody that's watching. Let me put everybody on blast. And let me really just stir the pot a little bit. I did feel that way, but I'm also hoping that that's the case, right? Because although I trying to pull my bias and my fandom out of it and watching that interview, yeah, I mean, I felt that he was maybe just kind of, pulling on our leg a little bit. Now, Cal's come out and made a statement. Randy's my brother. I love him. We're good. Wilson's come out and made a statement. My locker room is good. Everything's fine. I think when everyone's back, in Peoria, or even when they're back in Seattle, I think a kangaroo court's going to be held. I think this truly is going to be squashed before the season starts. That's how I feel. Obviously the media can blow it up one way and everyone else can blow it up a certain way. But me watching the interview, seeing how everyone else has reacted, right? Even Josh Naylor going for a fist bump when Canada played him, feel like this is just a thing. But, it turned out to be a very negative thing for Cal Raleigh, right? I mean, he got benched in the WBC. He wasn't hitting well. He got benched for Will Smith in the semis and in the final. I think that, this also kind of like maybe now he's realizing, okay, hey, I messed up here. I should have just given my boy a dap, call it a day. I didn't do that. Now it cost me a WBC, and now it's cost me kind of like this whole relationship that I thought I had with my teammates, right? So like I said, hope it's squashed. I think it definitely will be. Kangaroo court will be held in the Mariner locker room. I mean, it just will be. There's no doubt in my mind.
I sincerely hope you're right. Jake, who are you man crushing on? Who are you? Because that Aldo wasn't overhyping Randy. He was man crushing. So who are you man crushing on? Who are you overhyping? Who's your out there bloke?
Okay, I don't know if it's a cop-out, but, like, I honestly don't feel like I overhype anyone. I don't know. I feel like I don't get super high on a lot of guys. I feel like I'm fairly realistic, or try to kind of stay realistic with, like, who they are and all that. I mean, I'm super high on Ryan Sloan, but I don't feel like I'm overhyping that by any means. I don't know. I mean, I don't think, my thing is, like, I think he's a future Cy Young contender. I don't think that's crazy to say, so I don't know if you can consider that overhyping. Unfortunately, Rowdy Tellez isn't on the roster, so I can't say that. My big brethren. So I put down, like, maybe Leo Rivas ? I don't know. My thing with Leo, and the reason I think maybe I'm overhyping him is because I do think he has a spot on this roster for the long term in some way. At the end of the day, like, he is a career minor leaguer, right? Like, he's not like he's not going to be an all-star or anything. And the reason I like him, though, is because I just feel like Leo puts up great ABs. Like, that's his thing, right? Like, even if he doesn't end up getting the hit or anything like that, like, he is in there to kind of be like the I'm going to try to form this the best way I can. The non-instigating Jose Caballero type player. Like, he's not going to instigate anything. He's not Caballero in that sense. It's just more of, he puts up those good ABs. He drives up pitch counts. He sees a lot of pitches. He's fouling stuff off left and right. And, sometimes he does get that good hit. And, now we know, like, he kind of is OP in the clutch a little bit, right? Like, he had the walk-off against St. Louis last year. He has no one talks about it, but in the ALDS, like, he kept the Mariners alive. Like, no one talks about that because it ended up going 6 more innings and something, whatever. He was huge. He came up with a huge home run, or not a home run, a single in that. And it's just like, I think that's maybe my guy, I guess. But at the end of the day, like, I'm never going to say he needs to start. Like, that's not my take on Leo Rivas. It's just more of, I think he's a great guy to have on your bench in a lot of different ways. He has the infield flexibility. He has a little bit of speed if you need someone to steal a base potentially. He plays decent defense. And then, like I said, he puts up good ABs. And, like, from a bench player, I mean, kind of what more could you want? Like, that's kind of what you want a bench player to be, right? Like, you just want a guy who's going to go put up a competitive AB, a mature AB at a critical point in the game. Maybe he gets a knock for you, maybe he doesn't, but he's still going to, at least be really competitive. So I don't necessarily think I overhype him, but I would say, like, that's the closest guy to overhyping that I could really put down for me. So
I guess to summarize, if you missed all of that, Jake is calling for Ryan Sloan opening day starter and Leo Rivas hitting
clearly.
leadoff. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
you do you, big fella. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do that on the show on the PlayStation. I got to put my hand up for Tyler Cleveland. I overhyped the absolute shit out of Cleve. But I think it's deserved. Like sub 1 ERA, tough ballpark in Everett with a 0.8 ERA, backed it up in in double A down in Arkansas. He's a mature player too. Like he's not a 21, 22-year-old player. He didn't give up a single home run last season. It's the submarine arm as well. It's that different look. I know the Mariners have their stereotypical guy, but again, not being a baseball person, I just look at that and go, you just become predictable in one area with, the arm slot. And I think just completely blowing that up. And I'm also a fan of Moneyball, and I remember they had a submariner. So, that's my whole baseball knowledge. Sandlot and Moneyball, just chuck it in. But I think that I genuinely think, like, why did we have Ferguson? Like, this is me being unhinged. Why did we have Ferguson on our roster against Toronto? Put Cleveland in. What's the worst that happens? He blows up. You're not using Ferguson anyway, but throw a guy in who's high on confidence. And again, he's of that mature age where just let the bloke know if he's going to be a major leaguer or not in his life. And if he doesn't, he can move on with his world, or he can go back down to the minors and try again. But that's me. I'm unhinged on Tyler Cleveland. So I guess if we flip this one, what's one player, Jake, that you underappreciate on this roster? Who do you know you've got a bias against, or you just don't talk about, but you just don't know why?
So I wouldn't say I have a bias against him, but I will say Dom Canzone's probably my guy right now. I'm just skeptical. Like, that's really where it is for me. I think people talk about like how he performed last year, and how well he hit, which he did. It's just, I've also seen the exact opposite, right? Like I've seen that for the same amount of time, right? Like, and Dom Canzone just kind of has he's one of those players where like he has like a locked in phase, and then he'll have a phase where he looks like he just doesn't even want to be there. Like you see it in the body language, you see it in the ABs. Now, I want him to succeed, right? Like I'm of Italian descent, right? Like I would love for, an Italian player with the hand signal to be like a Mariners thing. It's a vibe, right? Like when he is playing well, and also, I mean, how can you hate a dude who hits absolute tanks, right? Like just thinking about the home run last year in Arizona, thinking about the one a couple years ago against Baltimore, like when he gets a hold of one, like it's going for a ride, it's going pretty far. So it's like I want him to succeed. It's just more of, I think, compared to the people that I know and the way he's talked about, I think I'm just a lot more skeptical. I'm more of, I like to joke in behind the scenes. Like I try to I kind of talk shit a little bit about him, but like not in an earnest way. It's like I'm joking, I'm memeing, right? But at the end of the day, like I'm just more of like the jury's out for me still. Like I just don't know if he's going to be a productive major leaguer or not for the long term. And, I would love for him to be one. It's just, I haven't seen anything yet to tell me, yes, he absolutely will be. So I'm just more skeptical than anything.
I think Canzone I'm glad I didn't invest in his Bowman first, because I think that is just boom or bust on the card market. Like you're right, it's two opposite ends. Mine is a guy that Aldo mentioned before. I know I underappreciate JP Crawford. Like I like JP as a bloke. I like him as a player, and I really, really like him as a father. Like everything I've seen with him, and that's my weak spot. Like you could have a 27 ERA, and if your social media is reflecting that you're a great dad, I'm going to be a sucker for that. I know that. That's a flaw in my analysis of players, but I don't know why. Maybe it's just the numbers that come out about, the defensive metrics. Maybe it's because he's got some swag, but not really like flair. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, yeah, JP, I've just really liked the guy. It seems like I could sit down with him and just chill out, like love him, but I haven't bonded with him. But Aldo, what about you? We know it's not Randy Arozarena. Surely. Yeah.
I mean, I think JP was one of my guys as well. I think that you're right. Like I going back to this past season, I was really just like, okay, maybe this is the Mariner career. This is the end for his Mariner career, right? I mean, even felt that way when we were at spring training, right? I mean, he was going around, he was signing autographs for every single person that was in line. And my buddy Brandon, who we were kind of looking at each other, we're like, this is it's kind of an oddity for JP. JP is maybe like a 1-2 and done, but he's sitting there going to every single fan that was waiting there. And I was like, maybe this is kind of, he realizes it's kind of it for him. And then no, I mean, then he had a pretty rock solid season. But another guy that for sure I think that I don't appreciate as much, just because we didn't see him that much until the end last year, was Victor Robles. I mean, it's now a famous quote that the Mariners gave post game. Like all of a sudden we all just saw a flash of pink, right? And then he had that amazing game winning catch that just brought us life. But I don't know. Like I feel like I didn't hear a lot about Victor. Obviously he was hurt and he's coming back from injury and all these things, but I always felt that there could be more coming out of him. I mean, and when you looked at that outfield with Randy, it goes, Randy, Julio, Victor, where I was expecting so much. And when that really didn't happen up until towards the end, I was kind of like, maybe we can move on at right field, gives Dominic Canzone a chance. But then all of a sudden I'm like, no, man, like, you need to throw Victor in there. He's just faster defensively. He can get to every ball, whereas Dom didn't really have that speed or that reflex out in right field to that we saw out of Victor towards the end. So I think those two guys for sure are on the main roster anyway are my two underrated guys that we're not talking about enough. But
yeah, Jake, we've only got two more, mate. I know it's late over your way. It's only midday for me, but outside of Colt Emerson, one prospect you think is a chance of seeing the field in 2026?
I think for me, it's going to be Michael Arroyo. I didn't really want to go with like pitchers and stuff because I feel like that's kind of obvious, right? Like at the end of the day, like pitcher injuries are going to happen. People are going to be in, especially on the back end of the bullpen. Like there's going to be rotation of guys that are going to try out. So I want to go with a position player, and I think Michael Arroyo is that guy. I think obviously the hard part with Arroyo is he doesn't really have a defensive position, but my thing is just like he rakes everywhere he goes. Like everywhere he goes, he hits. He hit well in the WBC. He's hit at every single level he's been in thus far in the minor leagues. I do think they should give him a shot in Tacoma to start out the year, see how he does. I don't remember exactly how many ABs he had in AA Arkansas, but like seemed like he wasn't missing a beat there either. So it's just kind of like, you might as well just see what you get with the bat, right? Because even if he doesn't have a defensive position, maybe you can put somewhere where he can at least stand in some way, or, maybe you will have some DH positions at some point. I don't think he would make it onto the team this year unless there's injuries. Like I can't see him getting a shot naturally due to the fact he has like no defensive versatility whatsoever. And that DH position is going to be full, regardless of kind of what happens. So it would take a lot for Michael Arroyo to get there, but I do think he has a really good shot, and I would like to see kind of how he can hit at least at the major league level. Who knows what could happen from there. So that's kind of my guy, I guess, for now.
Aldo, anyone besides Colt Emerson you reckon's getting a call up?
Yeah, I think Rylan Thomas, right? And from out of Tacoma, I think he hit 325 last season, 35 stolen bags. I mean, he's just a great contact hitter. I think he's officially been called up, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's already at the top level, but so I think his time is now to shine. I mean, you think he's 26. He'll be 26 this season. It's kind of like his time now. I think he spent enough time down in the minors and proven time, right? He's really like everywhere he's gone, he's improved his average. He's gone up in hits and runs and bags stolen. I think now is his time to shine here in 2026. I don't think that he's going to be like our starter or our number one guy, but I think versatility in the outfield is important, especially coming in the dog days of summer. And I think this guy is one of these guys that definitely can help our team average go up, and that doesn't hurt. And then he's definitely got to go back and forth. All right, we can send him down into Tacoma for assignment to get a little better if we need him to, and then we can bring him back up for games that are necessary that we feel that we need a little bit of extra pop. Especially if we're just looking for contact, right? Like the prospect line on MLB.com kind of compares him to Steven Kwan, which if you look at Steven Kwan's game, that's his game, right? He's leading off to make contact, to get on base, to let the 2, 3, and 4 guys bring him in and get the offense started. That was his role in Tacoma as well. Why not here?
Yeah, I already mentioned Tyler Cleveland, so I'm not going to double down on an answer, but I think we're a real chance of seeing Charlie Bielenson in 2026. The kick change is absolutely elite, and you only need one elite pitch to be able to make a go of it in the bullpen. Another of our more mature prospects, so he didn't record an ERA at the WBC. What did he pitch? 2.4 innings. So he's played against that higher level of talent. He's shown out there. I think if he can just sharpen up a couple of the other pitches, there could be a chance at some stage in 2026 that whether it's from injuries, form issues, or just he's ready, I think he could be joining the bullpen for the Mariners. So that's what we think. But back on the hype train, Jake, you've spent some time out at Everett. You've spent some time in Tacoma. You've got to know some guys. Out of all the players in our organisation, prospect, non-prospect, which is one player that personally you'd like to see have a crack in 2026 in the majors?
So, I mean, if we're going total, just like personal connection there, my guy Austin Kitchen, probably. I got to know Austin a bit during the off season. I interviewed him last year in Tacoma, and then we had another more longer interview during the off season. I actually met up with him in person in spring training this year at Peoria. So it was really nice to be able to talk to him kind of in that way. And he's just a really great guy. So I obviously I would love to see him get a crack at it. I'd love to see him succeed. It would be really cool to see him just do well. And I think he's a solid lefty pitcher, right? Like, I understand he's not, Gabe Spire, but I do think, I could see with how limited lefty arms are, like, it could happen this year for sure. I could see it. So personal connection there would be Austin Kitchen, and I would say kind of one of the new guys this year, which I know he just got injured unfortunately, so who knows what's going to happen. But I mean, Brennan Davis would have been pretty fun, right? Like, he wouldn't have cracked the opening day roster, but like, he's an outfielder that he could have, with the ever revolving door in right field that we have right now. I mean, he could have been on the bench, and just a guy who's been a former top prospect, and he's had one of those, like, careers where it's not necessarily ever been because of production. It's always been an injury thing for him. And he was hitting really well in Peoria, whether you want to take the stats of spring training seriously or not. But, it's pretty undeniable. Like, he knows how to hit. Like, he's a good hitter, like, at the end of the day. And that would have been fun. I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with him now with the hamstring injury that he has and all that. I don't know how long he's going to be out or anything like that. I'm sure he's going to be really great in Tacoma, which is going to be fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, I think more of like the story of Brennan Davis finally getting his shot in the big leagues would be a really fun one that I could absolutely see happening this year.
So you clearly copied me, because I'd really like to see Austin Kitchen get a go in the majors. A great friend. He's been a great mentor to the younger pitchers as well. He's done the team thing always. His IQ is just through the roof. If you speak to him, you're overwhelmed with baseball knowledge. Everything is process driven. You want a guy who's good for the team, good for the clubhouse, selfless. Like, it is him to a T. Plus, he's got some nice stuff too. And like you said, Jake, being a lefty, they're in high demand. So there is a realistic chance as well, not just us hoping that he can get called up. He's a great friend of mine. His wife is lovely. Like, they just amazing people. So I'd love that for them and their household. So to finish off the last question, Aldo, who would you personally like to see get a crack?
It's so funny. I think you guys are kind of going at the very truly like analytical point. Obviously you guys are right. I mean, Kitchen's such a vital part in within our farm system, and he does deserve a shot for sure. But my guys, I'm all about the hype train, baby. I want Laz Montez up there, man. Give him a go. Just give this, the Platano power. I think he's ready, man. I'm exaggerating, but I think that guy his ceiling can be so high. And the power that he has behind his bat is just outstanding. Obviously didn't hit very well this spring training, kind of struggled a little bit, but man, I mean, the boy can rake, and if he can get the head right and continue improving, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, I can see him being up at the bigs, being up with the big team. So I'm all about Laz Montez. I want to see that guy improve. I want to see him get better. I want to see him mature. and I want to see him just really start raking for this team. And especially just because it gives us so much hope for the future if a guy like that really gets it going. I think it's so important for this organization, especially with some of the trades they made this offseason, losing Ty Pete, which is a big. I mean, I know you're a big fan of Ty Pete. Nate, I know that, losing a guy like that who also had a lot of hype behind him. But if Laz can keep the head right and really buckle down and focus and get it going, I think this is a guy that we can see really be the future of this organization.
Absolutely. So there you've got it. There's enough information here to even confuse Einstein. Jake, I remember us having a message and you said, oh, how long do you think this is going to go? I was like, oh, yeah, 45 minutes. We've doubled that. So I think I've cost you ever coming back on my podcast again.
Good.
But,
you're good. You have to take it up with my wife, though.
Tell her, I'll send her some Tim Tams, mate. She'll let you come on every week. But the short story is that this season should be one hell of a lot of fun for us Mariners fans. I hope that you've enjoyed what we've put together today. It's something new. And obviously I've got this platform now, and Jake and Gavin and Aldo have been fantastic supporters of mine. So Jake, I know you've got to run so you don't end up fully in the doghouse, but before I let you go, where can people find you? How can they get in touch?
Yeah, so Raise the Trident on pretty much every platform for the most part, but primarily X and YouTube are kind of the main places. So yeah, you can find me on X for a lot of stuff, YouTube as well. And yeah, I mean, if you like interviews, if you like some in-person interviews, probably this year, as well as just I have a lot of people on. I do a lot of collab content for the most part. So if you like that type of stuff, you can certainly go check my channel out. Have a merch store that I'm launching soon. That's on opening day, so that's like the new thing right now, and a couple other things that are going to be announced pretty shortly here that are going to be big for this season. So really stoked on that. Going to be, I think, one of the best seasons for the Mariners in a long time, and I do think content-wise is going to be kind of a big year for me as well in many different ways, which is really exciting. So yeah, like I said, Raise the Trident on everything. I appreciate it as well, and of course, thank you, Nate, for having me on. I appreciate it. It's always nice to talk to you when we can, because the time difference, it's hard to schedule time to talk to you, so I appreciate it.
No, of course. And Aldo, any self-promotion, or are you just going to continue to remain Mr. Invisible, mate?
No, I mean, if I got to promote anything, it's Mariners Down Under. I think you do such a good job, man, and the way you interview guys and really just get down to a wholesome level with everybody. I really do enjoy the show. If you guys want to follow me, I'm on Instagram, whereasaldo_. That's, you could see usually what I'm working on, what kind of productions I'm on usually, or if I'm ever on the road, and I'm always posting Mariner stuff anyway. That I'm either reposting Nate, or I'm looking up some cool stats from the minors or anything like that I see. But really, Mariners Down Under, guys. Stay with it, stay on it. Nate's the next big thing. So pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Nate, I'm a fan. Jake, I'm a fan as well, brother. Raise the Trident's awesome. Can't wait for the store to drop. We'll definitely buy some merch when you drop it, man. So just pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
No, of course. So thanks to Jake from Raise the Trident. Thanks to Aldo. Thanks to Gavin, Up West Sports, X, YouTube, same sort of stuff. And of course, thanks to Jake's wife. If you're out there, thank you. I'm not sure what your name is, but you have been the real MVP today, because if it was Aldo and I, this would be a 6-hour chat. But boys, thanks so much. It's been a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, a monster shout out to those three boys for giving up all the time they did and the time that they had. It does nothing but enhance what I'm trying to do here on the show. And obviously make sure you go and check all of them out, because just because you listen to one Mariners podcast doesn't mean you can't listen to others as well. I know Gavin with Up West Sports and Jake with Raise the Trident, obviously here with our show too. We're not daily episodes. They're about once a week. I know ours is. Those boys are about the same too. So you can have all three of us on your rotation, and it's going to give you a really good spread of Mariners information. You'll get the really personal and down-to-earth interviews with the players here, and obviously probably your best look at prospects and who's coming through the system. You're going to get some absolutely brilliant analysis with Gavin and his team at Up West Sports. Can't recommend them enough. And then Jake, there's fun interactive stuff. There's analysis. There's stuff out at the fields. Like, he's doing such a great job covering all of those bases. So make sure you check them all out. And obviously it's a great example of how we can all come together We can all love the same team and we can have different views, yet we all still show love to one another. Good TV, good sports broadcasting is not who can yell the loudest or who can prove the other person wrong. Good sports TV, good sports podcast, good sports dialogue is about respecting everyone and realizing we all think differently, and that's okay. We just all want to give and receive love and be respected. So I really appreciate you tuning in, especially if you've gotten all the way to the end. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, and go Mariners.